In the constant stream of information about the war in Ukraine, it's easy to get lost in the noise of heated debate, of pundits and politicians drawing firm lines in the sand. But this isn't about who's right or wrong in a simplistic binary way. This is about understanding the immense, often overwhelming complexity of the situation. It's about how complicated the facts actually are, how they are presented, and how they are perceived across the globe. The narrative you hear in one part of the world can be starkly different from the one told in another. Before we delve into the details, a note of caution. This topic involves discussions of conflict and its human toll, which some viewers may find distressing. Our aim is not to shock, but to inform with clarity and respect for the gravity of these events. To grasp the present, we must look to the past. Let's start simple. Tensions go back decades. When the Soviet Union dissolved in 1991, Ukraine declared its independence, a move overwhelmingly supported by its population in a referendum. This was a pivotal moment, creating one of Europe's largest countries, strategically positioned between Russia and the West. In 1994, under the Budapest Memorandum, Ukraine agreed to give up its vast nuclear arsenal, the third largest in the world at the time, in exchange for security assurances from the United States, the United Kingdom, and Russia, who all pledged to respect Ukraine's sovereignty and existing borders. Simultaneously, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO, a defensive alliance formed after World War II, began expanding eastward, admitting former Warsaw Pact countries. From Moscow's perspective, this expansion was seen as a direct threat to its sphere of influence and a violation of informal promises made during German reunification. For many Eastern European nations, however, joining NATO was seen as a vital security guarantee against potential Russian aggression. Within Ukraine, a deep political and cultural divide persisted. The 2004 Orange Revolution saw massive street protests overturn a fraudulent presidential election, signaling a strong public desire for closer ties with the West and a move away from Russian influence. A decade later, in 2014, the Euromaidan Revolution erupted after then-President Viktor Yanukovych, under pressure from Moscow, rejected an association agreement with the European Union. The protests led to his ousting and further solidified Ukraine's pro-Western trajectory. This pivot triggered a swift and decisive reaction from Moscow. In the immediate aftermath of the Euromaidan Revolution, Russia's 2014 annexation of Crimea unfolded. Unmarked soldiers, later acknowledged by President Putin to be Russian troops, seized control of the Crimean Peninsula. A hastily organized referendum, held under military occupation and deemed illegal by Ukraine and most of the international community, resulted in a declaration of union with Russia. Concurrently, a conflict ignited in Ukraine's eastern Donbas region. Russian-backed separatist forces declared independent People's Republics in Donetsk and Luhansk. What followed was a grueling 8-year war of attrition, characterized by trench warfare, ceasefires that rarely held, and a mounting death toll. International efforts like the Minsk agreements attempted to broker peace, but ultimately failed to resolve the conflict, leaving it frozen but deadly. After months of military buildup along Ukraine's borders, which Russia repeatedly dismissed as routine exercises, the full-scale invasion began on February 24, 2022. The initial phase was a multi-front assault, with Russian forces advancing from the north towards the capital, Kiev, from the east into Kharkiv and the Donbas, and from the south out of Crimea. The objective appeared to be a swift decapitation of the Ukrainian government. However, fierce Ukrainian resistance, bolstered by Western military aid, thwarted the advance on Kyiv, forcing a Russian retreat from the north by early April. The war then shifted, concentrating Russian efforts on capturing the entirety of the Donbas and securing a land bridge to Crimea along the southern coast. That created a war with profound geopolitical consequences. The invasion shattered the post-Cold War security order in Europe, prompting historically neutral countries like Finland and Sweden to seek NATO membership. It triggered the most extensive sanctions regime ever imposed on a major economy, targeting Russia's financial, energy, and defense sectors. It also created severe economic consequences. The conflict disrupted critical supply chains, particularly for energy and food. Russia is a major global supplier of oil and natural gas, and the sanctions and retaliatory cuts led to soaring energy prices worldwide. Both Russia and Ukraine are major exporters of grain and sunflower oil, often called the breadbasket of Europe. The blockade of Ukrainian ports threatened global food security, leading to international agreements like the Black Sea Grain Initiative to facilitate exports. And most tragically, it has led to devastating human consequences. While exact figures are difficult to verify and often disputed, international bodies like the United Nations report tens of thousands of civilian casualties. Millions of lives have been disrupted. The invasion triggered the largest refugee crisis in Europe since World War II, with massive displacement of people. Millions fled to neighboring countries, while millions more were displaced within Ukraine itself, their homes and communities destroyed. This has resulted in global supply shocks and a humanitarian catastrophe that requires a sustained international response. The cost of reconstruction is already estimated to be in the hundreds of billions of dollars. The psychological trauma on a generation of Ukrainians is immeasurable. Given these high stakes, it's crucial to understand the information environment surrounding the conflict. Don't buy single-story versions of events. We are witnessing competing narratives on an unprecedented scale. State-controlled media, particularly in Russia, presents the invasion as a special military operation aimed at denazifying and demilitarizing Ukraine and protecting Russian speakers. Conversely, Ukrainian and Western sources frame it as an unprovoked war of imperial aggression, a fight for national survival and democratic values. Both sides engage in propaganda to bolster morale and demonize the enemy. This is a key element of modern warfare. This is information warfare on all sides. Disinformation, which is deliberately false information spread to deceive, is rampant. We see everything from manipulated images and out-of-context videos to sophisticated deepfakes and coordinated bot networks spreading false claims on social media. The goal is to sow confusion, erode trust, and shape public opinion at home and abroad. So how do you cut through it? How can you follow events responsibly? The first and most important step is to trust multiple reputable sources. Don't rely on a single news channel or social media feed. Diversify your media diet with established international news organizations that have correspondents on the ground and rigorous editorial standards. Look for reporting from organizations like Reuters, the Associated Press, the BBC, and others known for their commitment to fact-checking. Look for independently verified reporting. Pay attention to whether a report cites its sources. Does it attribute information to specific officials, eyewitnesses, or documents? Be wary of anonymous claims. Open source intelligence, or OSINT, has become a powerful tool, with analysts using satellite imagery, geolocation, and social media to verify events. But be cautious. While valuable, OSINT analysis requires expertise to interpret correctly. Watch for clear evidence, not hot takes. Emotional, sensational language is a red flag. Measured, factual reporting prioritizes evidence over opinion. Ask yourself, is this report trying to inform me, or is it trying to make me feel a certain way? Be aware of your own biases and how they might influence your interpretation of the news. The bottom line? It's complex. There are no easy answers or simple villains and heroes that satisfy a Hollywood narrative. It is, above all, tragic. The loss of life, the destruction of culture, and the deep wounds inflicted on millions of people are the undeniable reality of this war. And it is ongoing. The front lines may shift, and the headlines may fade from the top of the page, but the conflict and its consequences continue to unfold every single day. Therefore, the most responsible thing you can do is get informed and stay critical. Question what you see, read, and hear. Seek out nuance and resist the pull of simplification. Understanding the complexities is not an act of neutrality, it is an act of intellectual honesty. For those who wish to help, you can support credible humanitarian efforts. Organizations like the International Committee of the Red Cross, Doctors Without Borders, and various United Nations agencies are on the ground, providing essential aid like food, shelter, and medical care to those affected by the conflict. Research any organization to ensure your support is effective and reaches those in need. The path to peace is uncertain, but the need for informed citizens and compassionate action is not.